We are back. And this is a special late night edition of Family Meeting Podcast. It's 9.
It is bedtime.
9:13. We're normally in bed by now. But
we really truly are normally in bed around like 8:30 or 9.
We got a jam-packed schedule tomorrow. Lysandra's brother is coming into town. You cannot do that the whole episode, though.
I'm going to try. Sorry, guys. Yes.
So, family coming
My
into
brother
town?
and sister are coming, and their kids. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, it was literally, how are we going to fit this in?
Yeah.
So, late night, but that's how much we love you.
Yeah.
We're sacrificing sleep so we can bring you this amazing content right now.
And we're happy to do it.
Bunch of videos of my wife yawning.
Seriously.
We do that for you.
You can't say yawn because it makes me laugh.
We do that for you, okay?
No more saying yawn.
So, all right.
All right.
We're going to go ahead and get started here.
Okay.
Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Sleepy.
Yeah. You're a little loud today. Could you just tone it down a little?
No.
Okay, thanks. Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 129 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we are going to talk about being authentic in your marriage relationship.
Now, as we get started about being authentic, I think we need to be authentic with our listeners. I think I just need to give them a warning ahead of time.
Okay.
So, we are recording this way past Lysandra's bedtime. She's yawning now. She's literally going to be yawning this whole episode, I'm afraid.
I'm going to try to yawn quietly.
So, just in the matter of being authentic, sometimes even your amazing podcast hosts get tired.
Yes. Yes.
So,
we're sleepy.
you get tired in marriage, too. So,
Yeah, you do. Oh, there's a podcast episode.
tired of my marriage.
Tired of my marriage. I could write that podcast. Okay. Just being authentic.
Maybe that's in the book. We got a book coming out.
Yeah, the book is on the way. I mean,
So maybe that's in the book.
we're cranking this book out. We're so excited about it. It's been really fun to write it and to talk about our stories. Share our stories, right? In the spirit of authenticity. But seriously, a marriage relationship is your most valuable earthly relationship. And so you should be more authentic and real with your spouse than anyone else. They should be privy to the real you.
And one of the best things about marriage is having the freedom to be yourself. Now, let me just say this, because some of you are going to use that statement as an excuse to be a slob, to be a jerk, to be whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't have to be a jerk. That's not you. Okay. You don't have to leave all your clothes all over the place. That's not you. That's just being thoughtless, selfish, and lazy. But I'm talking about just being who you are as a person. Keeping up appearances is exhausting. But letting go of all that is relaxing and restful. I mean, you think about when you're first dating, right? When you're first dating, man, you have the appearance up. You don't even want that dude to know you eat food. Is that right, Lysandra?
Yeah. I didn't eat in front of you for a very long time.
And so you put on this appearance like you don't have bodily functions and just all that stuff, right? And that's a lot of work. And what's nice is when you get into a marriage and you're like, you know what? I can just be me. Like, now that you're here. And I feel like sometimes, maybe some marriages are like this, where you're walking down the aisle and you've got your Rachel, you're Jacob, and you've got your Rachel, and you're so excited to marry this beauty. And then marriage comes around and it turns out that's really ugly Leah. Sorry to all you Leahs out there. I'm not saying you're ugly. That's the Bible story. But
Are you saying that you got a Leah? Are you saying that you were disappointed that I'm like ugly and disgusting?
no, I'm just saying that for some people, it literally is that because of the appearances they put on in dating.
Because
where it's
they
like,
fake
this is totally not the person that I am. So, but you should be comfortable enough with your spouse that you can be totally authentic. And your spouse should be comfortable being totally real with you.
That's right. And there are reasons that it can be difficult to be raw and real with your spouse. One reason is the fear of rejection. I think this is probably the biggest reason that people are afraid to be authentic in their marriage. You know, things like, if he really knew me, he wouldn't love me. Or if she really knew the thoughts that I think, she would hate me now. You may genuinely want your spouse to know everything about you, but the bottom line is you also want them to love you and you want them to like you.
Yeah.
We all want to be liked. And it's scary to just trust another person with our secrets, but also it's scary to trust someone else with our secret self. In every other relationship in your life, you're managing perceptions.
That's very true. You're right.
In every single relationship, jobs, you're managing how your coworkers see you. You're managing how your bosses see you and maybe the people who are underneath you in employment. You're managing how everybody perceives you.
Yeah.
What about your friends? We manage perceptions there. Peers, church, family, like extended family, and our kids even. We try to manage their perception of us.
Well, and it's not just all that, but think about social media.
Oh, man, yeah.
Like, we're constantly trying to, and I say we as everybody on the billions on social media, we're trying constantly to show everybody how fabulous that our life is, when we all know that's not really what life is like.
Right.
We're posting the highlights and we're posting the different things. You go on family vacation, you see all these stuff, but we're not posting the everyday things of life.
Well, that was interesting because I was scrolling through social media not that long ago, and there was a young mom who posted a picture with her son, and I was like, is that baby wearing makeup? And I realized it was just a really heavy filter.
Oh,
so she had taken a picture with her son and had
filters.
A very heavy filter. But the truth is we're putting filter on every area of our life.
All right, I've got to stop you here because I just have to say something about these filters.
All right, what are you going to say?
I want to just say, stop it. Stop it with the filters already on social media. And it's just not you. Like, show a picture of who you are. These filters where you've got a lady taking a selfie or whatever with her man, and now you're both wearing makeup because of the filter. It's like, come on, we know that's not you. Just post a picture of you. Just the way you are is fine.
Listen, I get what you're saying, okay? I get what you're saying. But at the same time, like, I'm not about to leave the house without makeup. Right? So isn't that just me putting a filter on?
No, it's not even the same thing.
Not the same. Okay.
These filters are over the top. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my pet peeve, y'all.
Yeah, that you really got on that.
Just know if you have posted a social media picture with one of those filters on, I'm totally judging you.
Stop being judgy. Okay, so listen, we all believe in authentic living, right? Like, verbally, we would say, yes, I believe in authentic living. I want to be real, and I want people to be real with me. We all dislike fakes and phonies, right? We don't like people to lie to us in their behavior or their words or any other aspect. We all want authentic living, right? And we want to strive to be real at church, with friends, and all of those things. But even in a real authentic lifestyle, we still are careful to think about how we're coming off, right?
Oh, most definitely.
I mean, everywhere.
Yeah.
This is not reserved for just church or just work or just friends. Like, literally across the board, we're all thinking, how was that received? How am I, like, do I seem like a jerk? What are people thinking of me? And we're always thinking about that. So we're always managing that, at least to a certain extent, even if we are trying our best to live an authentic life.
And maybe it's not an unreasonable fear of rejection. Maybe your spouse has rejected you the last time you were real with them.
Right.
This can cause us to not want to try again, but to protect ourselves from the pain of rejection. Nobody likes being rejected.
Right.
On any level. It really doesn't matter what the level is. We do not like to be rejected. it hurts. There's something so personal about that. Maybe you shared a sin you are struggling with, and you are met with anger and shame rather than loving arms and an offer to help you conquer the sin. You learn not to share the truth of your sin struggle. And so what do you do now? You hide it. And you are not being authentic. And some of the harshest words that Jesus had were on those who were not being authentic.
That's so true.
We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But man, you shouldn't hide the sin, especially from your spouse. Mm-hmm. You ought to be working through this together.
That's right. But those are real reasons that people are afraid to be authentic, and I get that. Other reasons you might be kind of afraid to be authentic is maybe you feel like you can't be real in your marriage relationship because it'll only cause conflict.
Sure.
If I tell my spouse that I'm unhappy or upset, they're going to freak out. And maybe the reason that you're afraid of them freaking out is because they freaked out in the past.
Yeah.
You learn like, okay, well, I'm not going to say those things because my spouse has this unreasonable response, and
I don't really feel like fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
And so when you know that there's going to be a fight, if you don't like conflict, that may be the thing preventing you from being authentic with your spouse. And there's a lot of reasons that people don't feel comfortable being authentic, even in our closest relationship, our marriages.
And one reason you don't want to be real with your spouse is you feel you can't trust them. Man, and that's so sad. Mm-hmm. And maybe they've shared too much with others in the past.
Yeah.
And you don't trust them to keep it to themselves. And I know there's times where I hear a husband or a wife talking about their spouse, and it's not that their spouse is somewhere else, literally while they're in the room even, and saying like negative things or sharing mistakes and whatever from the past that really the rest of us don't need to know that information. And so what happens when you have people who've shared too much like that? Why would I ever trust you to keep that secret anymore?
Right.
And maybe you feel it's not a safe place to be raw. It's not a safe place to be real. You don't trust them with your inmost feelings because they've been unkind or unfeeling in the past. Maybe it's because you are a man and you are raised to believe men should not share feelings or even have feelings.
Yeah. What was it like in your house as far as like feelings? I mean, were you raised like don't cry?
I don't remember that ever being said, except for if I was being disciplined.
You weren't allowed to cry if you were being disciplined?
No, he would give me something to cry about.
Oh, sure.
And then of course, if you didn't cry, then it was like, oh, this must not be enough punishment. But
so how did you had to cry a little, but not a lot? Like what are we talking?
I'm not sure.
You couldn't win.
No, it was a no-win scenario. But I don't remember, like, if we were in pain or whatever, somebody saying, like my dad saying, don't cry, like in those circumstances. I've never heard that I recall. So it's not like my dad was just not overtly emotional unless sometimes there was anger or whatever, but in a loving sense. But I don't remember any sort of negative words that I shouldn't be that way.
Right, like real men don't cry or something like that.
Yeah, but I know some guys go through that in their upbringing, where it's literally like they're taught men shouldn't have feelings, which is absurd. God created us with emotions, and it's okay to share emotions. It's okay to feel things. It's okay to share how you feel. And I know that, like, for some guys, that makes them, they have the perception that makes you weak. And I really think it's exact opposite.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
You're not sharing your feelings because you're not strong enough to do that. It takes a strong person, especially a male, just because of the way things have been in the past. I think society, especially American culture, has come a long way in allowing men to have feelings and to express those. But, you know, it takes a strong person to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the reason that you don't choose to be authentic with your spouse is you don't want to start something. So you just choose to say, everything's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine.
Now, listen, guys. I know we're not all smart, but I've learned one thing. If she says she's fine, she not fine.
So true.
There is so much turmoil under there. She is the exact opposite of fine. So don't fall for the trap and be like, oh, okay, and just go on your blissful way. No, figure out what's the issue. That should be like a red alert sign. That's like a fire alarm, whatever, earthquake sign. I don't know, whatever the siren is for earthquakes that are coming.
Yeah.
But that's the warning sign.
I can't think of a time when I've ever been fine when I said I'm fine. Because, and here's the reason.
You never say you're just fine.
I'm never fine. Like, I'm always fabulous or awesome.
Or tired.
Or like, yeah.
Unless you're upset with me. That's when the word fine comes out. I've learned that. I am literally the only person she uses the word I'm fine with.
Oh, it's so true. Okay, so if you're not fine and you say you're fine, this is what I had to come down to. I had to put this into very simple terms. If I say I'm fine and I'm not fine, I'm lying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why that didn't compute, especially at the beginning of our marriage. You know, I would often say that I was fine for many different reasons, but a lot of times it was I just didn't want to talk to you yet or something. But I never thought of it as lying. I don't understand why, because I was, you know, I'm not a liar. I don't lie all the time, but in that way, I like made the exception. I would lie to you, say I'm fine. But here's what Ephesians 4:25 says about lying. Put away falsehood. Let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. And there is no closer neighbor than your spouse.
Yeah, for real. I mean, here in the context, he's obviously talking about Christians, but, you know, and you talk about being members of one of another, literally we are one flesh.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah. So we're not supposed to have any kind of lying, and being authentic means being 100% truthful with how we feel about each other and situations. And so make sure that you're checking yourself. You know, am I being authentic with my spouse? Is there any lying happening? Is there any falsehood or false pretenses being presented?
Well, and maybe you're just not ready to talk about it right now. Maybe you don't have the energy to have the discussion or the argument or whatever is going to come from telling the truth. Just say that, you know. I'm kind of upset about something right now, and I'm going to need just a little bit of time to just relax. We'll come back around to it.
Yeah, and then the other spouse is going to have to give that person a little time. You're going to have to not be like, just tell me right now.
Yep.
Just tell me right now.
Respect the boundaries and respect what your spouse needs, but you ought to be honest and open.
So we've shared just a few things that could be reasons that you may not want to be authentic, but there are many, many reasons to kind of fear being authentic with your spouse. So if you can get past all these reasons not to be authentic, or the fears that maybe you have, you get past all these and you decide, I'm going to open up, I'm going to be authentic. That authenticity creates a beautiful, comfortable haven out of your relationship. There's so much relief to having a person who knows everything about you and loves you and likes you just the way you are.
Yeah.
With all of your quirks and your craziness. And for me, there's so much craziness that Thomas puts up with. It is...
That I put up with. I really thought you were going the other way with that coin.
Out of the two of us, I am totally the crazy one. I put up with stuff with you, yes. But not like crazy stuff. I'm crazy. I'm neurotic.
A little bit. I mean, it runs in your family, so...
Truth. So, speaking of being authentic.
Exactly.
But yeah, like, what was it? It was Sunday night. Sunday night, I was just tired and cranky. And
I don't even remember
done.
this. Let's like, what was the situation?
I was just overly tired. I had been pushing really hard, and it came to a head. And
that's right. Okay, I'm remembering now.
I said, I was not even speaking in a kind tone. I was like, do you want to go on a walk?
Yeah. We went on a walk, yeah.
And I'm surprised that you even said yes in the way that I approached you, but I was just really frustrated. And You took me on a walk and you just listened as I rattled on for 20, 30 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
And by the time we came back home, I was like, wow, I feel so much better. Have you noticed that I'm happy again? And you're like, yep, you just needed to talk about it.
Yeah. And that's why I like to go on those walks, even though I know like you're going to unload, but I want you to feel comfortable unloading.
Yeah.
I want you to feel comfortable like sharing what's on your heart. And just for all of you out there who are listening, it had nothing to do with me this time. Yeah,
nothing at all. I was just tired.
Yeah.
I was tired of working.
Like it wasn't anything I did or anything else. So I was like, whew, that was a good one.
Do you ever get nervous when I'm like, let's go for a walk?
Oh, all the time. Especially if you use the words, I love you. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a long walk.
Yep.
But the first reason to be open, honest, and authentic in marriage is we see in the scripture that it's how we're supposed to live. And as I mentioned just a little while ago, Jesus did use harsh words at times. And the harshest words he used were for those who were not being authentic. The word Jesus used was hypocrites. He despised their lack of authenticity. He calls them whitewashed graves. In other words, you look pretty on the outside, but really what's on the inside is death. And he says this. So I'll just give you one, because Matthew 23 has, I think, 7 of these statements. Interestingly enough, it's that I'm going to be doing a series on this for our church later on this year. But Matthew 23, 27, and 28. This is Jesus speaking. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. And he continues to go on and tells them, hey, take care of the issues. Just be authentic. Stop putting on a show. Now, he's not saying, hey, just continue to live with the death and the filth and all that in your heart. He's saying, no, be real about where you are and work on it. Mm-hmm. He wants us to be authentic people. He wants us to be open about our struggles and faults. I think of what he tells us in James chapter 5, verse 16. James writes this, therefore confess your sins to each other. Do you hear that?
Wow.
Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Mm-hmm. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. So, and that's not even just talking about in a marriage relationship. That's just talking about in our everyday lives and our interactions, especially with fellow believers, is to be real. And some of the fakest people you know are those who go to church every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. It's sad.
And those are the people Jesus had harsh words for. So what kind of words do you think he would have for us in our marriage if we're putting on a show? Mm-hmm. If we're being fake? So he wants us to live a life that is open and authentic, especially in our marriage.
And if you're finding it difficult to be real with your spouse, we have some suggestions to help you take some baby steps towards being open and vulnerable. And sometimes a baby step is all you need to take, okay? Don't try to jump into the deep end if you're not ready. Take a baby step. Get used to this idea, okay? First, share with your spouse that you feel insecure. Share with them that you're afraid to be vulnerable and authentic with them. Start there so that they understand this is hard for me, but I'm trying. And then explain why you feel this way without passing all the blame on to them. So I'm not going to say, Thomas, I'm really afraid to be real with you because you're such a jerk and you're always mean. And so that's why I can't be real with you. So I've taken none of the blame and I've given Thomas all the blame.
Well, and you make that person defensive and they immediately have to respond, immediately have to defend themselves. It's just not going to be a good conversation.
You don't get anywhere with that. So go ahead and share how you feel and really we talk about the why behind things all the time. Make sure that you're explaining why. Why do I feel uncomfortable being authentic? And then take responsibility for your lack of authenticity in the past. Take that responsibility. I'm sorry that I didn't share my honest feelings with you before.
Well, and I love that you're saying this about owning that, because it is a problem if you're not being authentic. Mm-hmm. Because what you're doing is you are, by not being authentic, you are making it so that relationship cannot go any deeper. Mm-hmm. You're closing off what the relationship could be. Mm-hmm. So I think it's right to apologize. And especially when you come at it from that angle, now this person is not going to be so much defensive, but they know and they see and they understand, hey, they care about having a close relationship with me. And now it's not about, hey, you've been a jerk or you've been this. You've now softened their heart to be able to hear what you're going to say.
That's right. And, you need to take a little time to examine your own heart. We talked about different reasons some people maybe struggle to be authentic. Figure out what your reason is that you're struggling to be authentic. Once you've examined your own heart, then share what you're really afraid of. If you're completely honest with them, that will be the first step right there. Share that fear of rejection, maybe the loss of respect that you're afraid of. Maybe you're afraid of the conflict, or you fear their response to the real you. Share what that is. And there again, you're being authentic with the reason that you're afraid to be authentic.
And now there's going to be some exceptions, obviously, but there's a good chance your spouse has no idea that they've done something in the past that made you want to present a better than reality version of yourself.
That's a good point. I think that's true a lot of times. I know it is for you.
They may be absolutely clueless. There's times where I have no idea, like, I've done anything offensive. It's just me being the moron that I am. And I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, was that me?
Yeah, sorry.
Am I not allowed to do that?
So they most likely have no idea that you feel like you can't be real. And they need to understand, if someone else in the past has hurt you and made you feel like you had to perform a perfect spouse act. Some of you that have, you've come from broken marriages and now you're remarried, and that stuff from the past can linger forward. And so if you're not open and honest about this, like, hey, I just struggle because of this past relationship and this happened, I'm having a hard time with that. Your spouse deserves to know that. Share with them if your father or mother expected perfection from you, and now you've carried that over into your marriage. Explain if a previous romantic relationship has taught you to hide the real you or the parts of you that aren't too pretty.
Mm-hmm. And when you're tempted to fudge the truth or just flat out lie to your spouse to prevent the conflict, or, choose, whatever, when you're afraid of them rejecting you or whatever that fear is, what we need to do is decide that I'm not going to fear conflict. I'm gonna choose to view conflict in a different light now. I choose to look at conflict as an opportunity to deepen my relationship. So even though this is gonna get raw and real and might get tough for a while, it's worth it. It's worth it for me to be uncomfortable for a little while, because then in the end, we're gonna have a deeper, better relationship. So remind yourself that this discussion, no matter how uncomfortable or awkward or embarrassing or whatever, it's going to deepen your relationship and it's going to help your spouse to get to know you better. So take a deep breath and be honest with your spouse about how you feel.
And you're right. The effort will be worth it in the end. If you can push through that uncomfortable part, and if either of you or one of you or none of you are used to being authentic, it's going to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard at first. But if you can work through that and you get to the other side where you have this open, loving, honest relationship, there's nothing in the world better than that.
It's so true.
But when you're tempted not to tell your spouse a truth from your heart, you need to trust God enough to say it. Share the struggle you're trying to overcome and ask for help. Share how God's working in your life. Share the secret hurts. Share it all. And you need to hear this next line. Nothing should be off limits. Mm-hmm. Nothing. You are one flesh now. And I love the way that it's described in Genesis. It talks about how the man and woman are naked and they're not ashamed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In other words, they're completely open, they're completely vulnerable, transparent, hiding nothing, and we have nothing to fear, and there's no shame. And that's exactly the way that our relationship should be. I should be able to share all my thoughts, all my feelings, and not feel shame and not be worried. You know, imagine the intimacy in marriage you will enjoy if you both are completely honest about absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm. So if you're holding back anything from your spouse, you may actually be hurting your relationship and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. So Thomas and I are coming up on 20 years of marriage.
How is that even possible already?
I don't know, because it went really, really fast, which scares me because I'm afraid the next 20 are going to go just as fast.
They'll go faster.
Don't say that. But it's been great. And we've been talking about celebrating one of our anniversaries with a vow renewal. So we've decided we're going to do that this year on our 20th wedding anniversary. And we're talking about planning the vow renewal and what do we want to do and stuff. And he said in passing, we need a videographer. And I was like, oh, I guess he really wants a video of this very simple ceremony, but okay, whatever he wants.
Well, because I remember, like, really the only regret you had from our wedding is not spending money on a good photographer who did all this stuff.
Yeah. And videographer, both.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was like your biggest thing. So
that was my biggest regret.
I just kind of thought, this is what she wants.
She wants a videographer. And I thought, okay, I guess he wants a videographer. I hadn't even thought of having a video of this thing. So I kept thinking this over, like, man, how much money does a videographer cost? How much are we going to spend on that? Are we going to watch it? Like, will we ever go? And then I was thinking, am I going to want to watch the video of our vow renewal? And then I was thinking, okay, I know I have a problem with not being sentimental sometimes and like the right way with you and me. So
but you love pictures, so I don't know.
I love pictures, but I was like, I wouldn't watch a video, I don't think. So anyway, I'm thinking this over like crazy, right? And it wasn't really that big of a deal, but I didn't want to tell him that I didn't really want a videographer personally, because I thought if I tell him, then if he really wants a videographer, he's going to feel like, oh, I think it's stupid, so he can't have a videographer. So I chose not to tell. I was like, I'm not going to say anything. And I couldn't stop thinking about this. And all of a sudden I realized it was eating at me because I wasn't being totally honest with him about my feelings. And we tell other couples all the time, all of you beautiful podcast listeners, we tell you all the time, don't hold back your thoughts and feelings. Tell the truth.
Yeah, because we've had couples talk to us separately and talk about they have some decision they want to make or whatever, and they feel a certain way about it, but they don't want to share it with their spouse because they don't want to, like, you know, sway them with their feelings or whatever. I'm like, no, how you feel is important. Like, that should be a big part of the decision-making process. Like, they need that information.
And we've had those couples talk to both of us separately, and then you and I will come together, and we're like, oh, they both want the same thing, but they're afraid to tell each other. How are we going to get them to communicate?
Yeah.
So I'm replaying things like that in my mind, and I'm like, I just need to talk to him about this and see how he really feels. So I finally, carefully asked him, how important was it to him to have a video at the vow renewal? And I think that you said basically, well, I don't really care about it, but I know it's really important to you, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He said something like that. And he just wanted me to be happy. And I said, oh, good. Because I really don't want a videographer. I don't want to spend money on that. I was like, no offense, but I don't think I'll ever watch that video.
Yeah.
I don't know if our kids will. I can't imagine the kids would want to watch that either.
Oh, they will once we're gone.
You think so?
I think they would.
Do we now need a videographer?
Well, if the kids want it, they can pay for it.
Okay, perfect.
Put it that way.
But if I hadn't made the choice to be totally authentic with my husband We could have ended up paying, I don't know, hundreds or more, maybe thousands. I don't know how much a videographer costs, but we could have paid that much on a video that neither of us even wanted. So being real is always best.
Yeah, and if you hear the little voice inside saying, don't tell them, don't listen to that voice.
Yeah.
Tell the truth and you'll find freedom in it. Think of John 8:32, and you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. There's such freedom in it. And it really is true. There is, if you're being totally authentic with your spouse, that brings freedom. When they love you for the real you, it's absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. And the other side of this reality, there is another side to that. If you want your spouse to love the real you, then you must love the real them.
Right. Yeah.
When they trust you enough to show you their authentic self, accept them and love them. Go as far as to thank them for their authenticity. Thank you for being real with me. Thank you for sharing your feelings with me. I try to tell Thomas that when he shares his feelings, because it is more rare for him, just because he has so fewer feelings than me.
I do.
It's just like very few and far between. I'm very tired. Sorry. But show your appreciation for their vulnerability, and sharing does go both ways. So make sure you're thinking about that. As you share, your spouse is going to feel more comfortable to share as well.
Now, we're not saying that when your spouse is real with you and shares they're involved in a sinful activity, that you should just accept them and love them for the real them.
No.
Now, we always accept people, but we don't accept the wrongdoing. It's not okay for your spouse to continue in an emotional or physical affair because they're being authentic with you.
Yeah, this is the real me.
Yeah. Well, he told me about the porn, so I guess he can just keep watching. No, that's not what we're talking about. They need counseling. They need to break off any extramarital activity, even if that's just what they're looking at on their phone or whatever else, and then immediately work to rebuild the trust with you. If your spouse shares the truth of their addictions and, all that kind of stuff, and you just need to love and accept their addiction, no. They need to love you enough to set up some safeguards immediately and begin to break the chains of the addictions. They need counseling and help with this kind of addiction. We're talking about, hey, man, you know what? I really just don't feel like hanging out with all these people tonight. That's the kind of being authentic we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Talking about loving your spouse, even if they like old lady shows, like Murder, She Wrote. Okay? Those are the things we're talking about.
Is that the worst aspect of me that you have to love?
One of them.
I'm sorry, it's rough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Poor thing. But your spouse needs to know the real you and nothing held back or hidden. So be completely open and painfully honest with them about your thoughts, feelings, and opinions.
Well, and it's funny because I was just thinking about this the other day. Whenever Lysandra and I go out to eat, this is how authentic we are with each other. And we're with people. We literally will look at each other with this huge grin like, hey, is there anything in my teeth?
Yep.
Picking stuff out of each other's teeth, plucking facial hairs off of each other.
I've never plucked one of your facial hairs, so I think that's about me.
I know, but I was trying not to give it away totally.
I feel attacked. That's how authentic I am. I feel attacked. It was just tonight, as we were heading into our lead team meeting, that Thomas had to tell me that I had a bat in the cave.
I'm like, we're literally walking in the building. I'm like, you have a booger hanging on your nose right now, so you might want to get that.
Oh, snap. Thanks. Okay. So go ahead and be real.
No, I didn't get it for you, so we're not that close. You can handle that business yourself.
I'm glad we're not there. Okay. So yes, share openly and honestly. Share maybe even the sin struggle that you're having and share that with your spouse. Seek to get help, but don't go at it alone. Trust your spouse to walk with you on that journey of healing and freeing yourself from that sin problem that you might have. Because when both spouses are totally authentic with each other, trust is built, love is deepened, and friendship grows. So enjoy an authentic relationship with your spouse today.
And we want to encourage you to have your family meeting tonight and just discuss areas of yourself you feel like you can't be authentic. So is there something you feel like I can't share about? Maybe it has to do with your past. And man, I just feel like I'm not allowed to share my past with you. Maybe it has to do with your faith. And maybe your spouse is just uncomfortable talking about spiritual things. And so you don't feel like you can share what's going on spiritually in your life. Whatever it might be, talk about why you feel this way. Share how you will try to be more real with your spouse and how they can help make you feel safer in doing so.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about teaching your children to pray. We're going to share what our family was like when the girls were just learning to talk and how we helped them to pray at a young age. And we're also going to discuss how to encourage your older children to deepen their prayer life.
I also want to encourage you to jump into our Facebook group. We are starting a brand new show just for the Facebook group.
Ooh, this sounds good.
Monday mornings, we're going to be talking about Monday motivation. So,
I need Monday motivation. Usually Mondays are a really hard day for me.
But it's
like only me.
Yeah, exactly. Mondays are hard for everybody. So we just wanted to be able to spend some time. It's going to be live just in our Facebook group, interacting with all of our listeners and just trying to encourage people as they start off their week, how they can deepen their relationships and just have a good time doing that. So if you want to be a part of that and interact with us, we'd love to have you jump in the group. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
I feel like I really earned that high five because I made it through that episode without falling asleep. I'm so sleepy right now.
Yeah.
And I have a big headache because when I get too tired, I get headaches. And then we have bright lights coming at us.
And the amount of yawns was actually very limited.
I was yawning with my mouth closed. It was
I'm very
weird.
surprised. Yeah.
It was super weird.
Yeah. But as long as the noise didn't go in the microphone.
But you're making me yawn right now because you're telling me not to yawn.
Yes.
Should we go to bed?
Oh, is that an invitation?
Yes, let's go to sleep.
Oh, that's not what I thought you meant. I thought you meant something else.
In your dreams.
Literally. You are
we gotta get off.
You are the woman of my dreams.
We gotta get off this YouTube channel because I say stupid stuff at night.
I know. I kind of want to see how long I can make her talk and say something stupid.
No, because I will say something really bad.
All right. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll see you next time.